Hi everyone, welcome again to my channel. If you like my channel, I suggest you to subscribe it and turn the notification on the little bell there so that you can be updated every time I release a new video. And also please like this video if you actually like it. In my previous video, I talked about what is your purpose, how to find your purpose. And today we're going to talk about how to recognize your purpose, because after releasing that video, I had a lot of questions from people that watched the video, and I wanted to understand what I meant with what a reward system is, and how to actually recognize your purpose from something that is not your purpose. And it's actually very complicated sometimes to understand that we actually are part of a bigger scheme, because we are not designed to see that we are part of a whole, because the universe already designed us to have a function, to have a purpose in life, in the whole that we don't see. And so first of all, we do not need to see that, because by being aware or not, it doesn't matter. We already are having a purpose. We already are having a role. It's like a cell in our body. It doesn't matter if the cell is aware or not of the function it has in the body. It doesn't matter if the cell is aware that there are different cells in the body and each one of them has a different role. The cell is designed already to react in a certain way and to respond in a certain way, and to, by being itself, having a purpose. That's it. And so we don't actually need to see that. But because we need to spread, because we need to colonize, because we needed to move, because we have legs, and so we needed to move across the planet, we developed an ego, and we developed the need to spread. And so with the ego, another property we developed was the sense of grandiosity and the sense of being separate from the system, because if we did not have that sense, we would have not spread. And so that was just part of us being on this planet and us spread across the planet. And so we developed that. But we are already meant to have a purpose, even though we don't realize it. And so this idea that we have, that we consider our purpose as something like, I want to do something that is bigger than me, I want to participate in something good, that is something you can do only after you awaken to your life purpose. To give an example, I'll talk about, because always to understand things, we need to look down to see patterns in nature, to understand how we ourselves have been built in the same exact way. So everything in the universe is built from the start, from everything, from salts, from minerals, from crystals, to the biggest level of societies in our planet. All of those things are built following the same exact rules of nature. I know it's difficult to understand it and to comprehend it, that because they seem like very different, but it's just a bigger scale. But it's always the same law that reflects itself in all the different patterns at all different scales, from the smallest to the biggest. It's always the same physics, it's always the same biological and biochemical and biophysical laws and thermodynamics, and all these things that regulate the universe, they're all the same at all levels in a certain sense. And so it's like a domino effect. Everything is just a reflection of the physics of our universe. Someone asked me, are we already having our purpose if we don't know, if we are not aware of our purpose, if we are just, pushed through life since we are young, and then we finally awaken, were we previously not having a purpose? To answer to that, I need to talk about the seed, for example. Every plant, every tree actually, even a sequoia tree, is born from a little tree. And even though we don't realize it, the information about making that tree was already present in that little seed already. The information about the fractal that a desert plant makes were already present from the very beginning in its DNA. And DNA is just another form that the universe has to create things, but it responds to the same exact laws as crystals. It's not by chance, indeed, that even crystals can form fractals, and repetitive structures and patterns is the same thing. It's just another way that responds to the same exact laws of the universe. And so because we are living beings, in the sense that we have DNA, we perceive ourselves as different and better than crystals. But we are the same thing. We're just a different expression at a different scale of the same exact laws. And so, in the same way, when a seed is seeded in the soil and it starts creating a plant, at the beginning it scales. At the beginning, it's not visible what the seed is going to become until it jams, until it starts having leaves. And even the leaves initially, you can't tell what kind of plant is going to become. All the plants are the same at the beginning. A sequoia tree and like a little kale, they're very similar indeed, in the sense that it's just a plant. It's just a little leaf that is initially necessary just to start creating the energy necessary to release all the potential that was already in that little seed. And so even us, we are just the same. So we're just a little seed. And the point is that human beings are, because we are so complex in terms of we are inherently a structure on top of a structure on top of a structure, right? As animals as well. We have a brain also, and that creates even superior structures. And when I say superior, I don't mean in the sense of better, I mean in the sense of superior levels, higher levels. We, for example, we are born, and our DNA as a cell is the first seed, and that determines what kind of embryo we're going to become. And then our environment is going to affect that. And then once we're born, we are the result of the instructions that our seed contained, which was the initial oocyte fertilized by the sperm. That's what we are initially, the union between these two cells, a sperm and an egg. That is our initial seed. And then we're born and we become a human being, newborn human being. And that is an additional seed that the environment of our house, our parents, or whatever environment we were born in, then affects and determine different levels of creation of this. Yes, it's already a potential, it's already something that is somewhat blooming, but at the same time, it's still a seed information. And so, because then at every stage, we add information and add conditioning to this thing that is a newborn, and then they become a child, and then the child receives all the conditioning from his parents. And then when the child grows up and goes in society, by changing environment, is like it's again a seed that is being planted in a new soil. And a seed in the sense that at this point, not only its genetics, not only the environment of the mom's womb, not only his family, but everything is done until that point determined what kind of seed it is and what kind of plant it can create in the environment and in the world. And that is how it works. And so we are constantly creating potentials by conditioning and by the environment and by our life. And by then going in the environment, we are a seed. But even though to us it looks like we have this free will or we're deciding ourselves, reality is that all those things that we are and we have been designed to do, those affect how we interact with the world, and what kind of seed and what kind of information we carry, and what kind of fractal we create, and what kind of how we interact with all the other things to create a bigger structure. And even though it looks like it's all random in a certain sense, reality is that we only see things based on our duration, the duration of our life cycle. And so we have this perception that it's all new. It just happened because I was just born. Reality is we have been on this planet for a long time as a species, and societies have been on this planet for a long time. And so the universe already has adjusted a lot of times for a long time. And so all we do, it's already in the same way that a plant already is designed from the start to whatever environment you put it in, as long as the environment is fertile enough to allow the seed to grow, that seed will give you that specific plant. Yeah, the environment can affect a little bit how the plant will become, but ultimately it will give you that plant. It won't give you another plant, right? And so even though we don't realize it, and even though our level of complexity is higher in that sense, it's not just at the genetic level, it's also at the psychological and emotional level and the consciousness level. Even though we have a lot of different levels, all those levels had a long time to be adjusted and evolved, and now all those things are already pre-programmed in us. And we are part of a fractal that we don't see, because all those things have been evolved to be part of a fractal. And our fractal is society. Our fractal is families. Our fractal is whatever environment we find ourselves in that allows us to create a bigger structure, to contribute to a bigger structure. That's our fractal. And by being ourselves, we are contributing to creating that fractal. And we are born to do that in a certain sense. We are born. The world is already pre-designed to have a certain amount of spiritual leaders and a certain amount of leaders and a certain amount of workers, but not as we have it today in our society, because today people are preconditioned by society to become what their parents want them to become, or what their elite allows them to become, or what their group allows them to become. And this is why our society is not working, because we don't function anymore through our inner purpose, through our reward system. We function based on potentials that are predefined by your social status. And this is why social status is very bad for our planet and for ourselves, and it always leads to the destruction of whatever species and whatever civilization it lays on, because it's not how it works. Because you may be born in a very poor country, but maybe you are supposed to be the leader of the world in a certain sense, because you have the potential to make good things, but you don't have access to it. But this is why the universe creates a lot of mechanisms. For example, narcissistic abuse from your family can be a great way to push you far from it, because you are designed to be a leader. But if you stay there, you're never gonna lead anyone. You're never gonna become anyone. And so your family is abusive, because if your family is abusive, that creates a person that is actually inherently good, and it has to spread. But for you to spread, you have to hate that environment, for you to fill the gap that you need to fill, for you to move away and to go somewhere else. And so even all the things we perceive as bad are just part of a design for us to fulfill our purpose and to do what we're meant to be. When I say that we have to follow our reward system, it's like why teenagers fight with their parents, because they're supposed to individualize, they're supposed to go far from there so that they can fulfill their role in the world. If they were designed to settle, they will settle and they will never move. And so it's all part of it. So the fact that you fight with your people around is because that is not the environment for you you're supposed to live. Or the reason why you settle is because you're supposed to settle. Men and women are designed in a different way. And I actually realized it by observing seashells. That was a beautiful awakening. Men and women, in the sense of the childbearing and the sperm bearing being in our society, are nothing else than female and male in the nature in general. Of course, today we are way more complicated than that, and the fact that you have a vagina or a penis doesn't really define you in that sense, but hormones do define you, and your brain, in terms of what kind of skills you have associated with this more feminine or masculine energy, that defines you a lot. Women tend to be more prone to daydreaming and to hoping things to be good, and to be empathetic, and to hoping things to go well, to see their environment as pretty, and to wanting to make their environment better. And at the same time, they tend to settle because they have to bring a child to life, and that takes time. It takes a long time, and it takes a lot of will to be there with that child, be there first to undergo pregnancy and then labor, and so you have to spend a lot of time when you oftentimes are alone in a cave for you to protect yourself and your child. And so this is why women have inherently in history been designed to have all of this very active mind and creativity and artistic things, and the capability of creating, but also to chat between each other and to wanting to bond with other women. Because if you don't have that kind of reward system, nobody will ever have children. And we are talking about prehistory because these things evolved through history, through prehistory especially, and why men instead tend to be more walkers and explorers, because they have to spread the masculine side of every animal and every plant. Like in the plants, the masculine side is the pollen, and because that's what as the function of spreading. And so men have this reward system that makes them feel good when they spread, because they're meant to spread, and women are meant to stay and to be the tree that brings life, that perpetuates life, and men are meant to walk and to spread their sperms to allow the genes to be dispersed. And this is how we evolved. So all of these things are just pre-designed, and all of our reward system is pre-designed to that. However, even though this seems like very basic, we constantly evolve. The universe constantly has the same laws. They make us evolve continuously in the same way. And so even though you don't know that, we don't realize it, we have already gone through a lot of evolution. And in fact, today, we are not anymore just men and women based on our physiology. We evolved to have skills that go beyond that. And that have to do with hormones, because in the end there are studies showing that the brain of people that have a different sexual orientation, regardless their physiology, they have a different brain. So the brain is what determines your reward system, and so you just are different. So it's not about your body anymore. It's about your body and it's about your brain, and that is what defines your purpose in life. What you like is defined by your reward system. But even if you don't know about that, you go through things in life in a certain way so that you can fall into place. And I was observing these seashells, and there are some seashells that have a shape that make them roll through the wind so that they never actually stop. And there are other seashells instead, they have a irregular shape and a very fat bottom, so that they tend to roll because they are irregular. But then when they find a deep, when they find a hole, they just stay there. And so this is what I mean when I say that different people have different shapes and different purposes, because we are inherently different. And for how we are built, we already obtain different results. We reach different places. We do different things. We don't even have to think of it. We are pre-programmed to do that. And even though we feel like this unique person that is special and has to establish itself, himself, herself, that is just the ego talking, because we say a lot we want to be part of a bigger purpose. Reality is most people don't mean they want to be part of a bigger purpose, because once they discover they already are part of a bigger purpose, but they have to let go of their ego and of their desire to have a higher position and have control and lead everything, then they don't want that purpose anymore. But that is your purpose. So when you say that you want a purpose, but what you mean is just you want to spread your own genes, you want to establish and to make the world become a reflection of your purpose, that is the ego talking. You're not actually doing your purpose. You're just trying to say you want your genes to spread. That's your ego, that's your genes. Those are your genes. It's not your purpose. The purpose that you already have a purpose by being yourself. And sometimes being yourself in the universe means staying aside or being in a corner or having a secondary roles. And like all roles are just roles. If there wasn't your role, someone else will not be allowed to exist. And so your role is fundamental no matter what you do in the world. You are fundamental in society. We have to awaken to our own purpose, because otherwise, yes, we keep doing it, but we do it in a way that is not conscious. And so we just do stuff and we keep being pushed away, because our final purpose is to awaken to our real purpose, and so that we can do it and we can stop being pushed around. And so we keep being pushed around until we awaken, because we have to awaken. But at the same time, by being pushed around, the universe has already selected things and defined things in a way that they fall into place, even if you don't know what you're doing. Because imagine if the universe was just relying on our awareness for us to do what we're supposed to do, well, this would be chaos. The only problem we have is actually the ego, in the sense that we have to let go of it, because we evolved it and the universe evolved it and created it for a reason, which was to make us spread and to make us want to replicate and to reproduce ourselves. And that's fine, but then we have to evolve from it, and we are already evolving. And reality is that nothing in the universe is designed to last unless it's designed to last. Things are really a loop. The ego is not sustainable in the long term, because it's like cancer, and cancer tends to kill itself. And cancer tends to kill itself because cancer tends to kill itself. Cancer is bad for the universe and it's bad for your body. And so, because it's bad for your body, it's bad for your body. So that it kills itself so that it doesn't spread. And so it's the same thing for the ego. The ego is self-destructive because it's self-destructive, because it will kill everybody if it doesn't destroy itself. And so if we keep being trapped in the ego, we will just end as a society, as a civilization, because we are supposed to end, because it's not self-sustainable. It's not sustainable in the long term, and so it destroys itself. And there is no way anyone, like Elon Musk, you can start and try to build things and go on another planet. Everything will be destroyed. Maybe not in your lifetime, maybe not in your life cycle. Whomever, no matter how much money you have and what you're trying to do, if you do things based on the ego, you will be destroyed. Your empire will be destroyed. It's just a matter of time, and it doesn't matter where. And you will end up affecting and metastasizing in the world, but you're not going to move past the ego, and you're not going to build anything that is actually long lasting, unless you build something that is actually long lasting, which is egoless. Unless you understand you are already part of a bigger scheme by falling into place instead of wanting to prevail. That is being part of a bigger scheme. And we have to build societies that are sustainable, in the sense that we allow people to be themselves, instead of expecting everybody to having to race for survival. We should not have a race for survival. We should just help each other survive in society, because we all are important. No matter how pretty or ugly you are as important, because you are designed to be in that way for a reason. You may not understand it, but you're part of a beautiful thing that you help doing. There wouldn't be no flower without stem. The stem is not pretty, it's just a stem. But without the stem, the flower will not be pretty. And so it's all it's all part of it. It doesn't matter what part you perceive as pretty. It's the whole that is beautiful. You think that's what you're seeing, but that is beautiful. But reality is that everything is just a sum of things, and is built of different components, and that's what you're supposed to perceive as beautiful. And everything is a role, and without all the parts, you will not have any beauty. And so we have to understand that. We have to understand that all of us have a different role, and all of us have a different purpose in life, because all of us have a different purpose. I hope you enjoyed these loopy things, because it's actually how it works. And I hope you enjoyed my video, and I'll see you next time.